Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. We are really up now. We got a set Kolpack. Take a look at what we got here. The nickel, which has got the wrong side up, and we'll discuss that later. The penguin is displayed infamous from a couple years ago. The Mackey Trophy, which Big E brought out a couple of weeks ago. Burgundy is here.
A.K.A. Brock's back.
Brock's back. There's one thing that's conspicuously absent from back here. Do you happen to notice what that is?
Where's the belt?
Where is the belt? It's not here. Big East keeps promising it. People keep asking him where it is.
Well, the suspense is
It's killing all of us here. NDSU, though, keeps killing opponents. They won a 30th straight on Saturday, beating Southern Illinois 38-10. Now 6-0 on the season, 2-0 in Valley play, and now we'll play the last team to beat them. Over 2 full years it'll be since the last time the Bison lost a football game. Is Indiana State will come to the Fargo Dome. The Sycamores off a loss to Illinois State. We'll get into that in a second. Now, we touched on in the pregame show about the quote-unquote offensive struggles for the Bison. Last week at Western Illinois, they rack up 38 points against Southern on Saturday, Jeff. We had the drive chart that we showed in the pregame last week against Western, and the drive chart this week looks a complete opposite. This is Bison's success.
Well,
here.
right. If you remember against Western, we looked at all their drives, and half had errors of some type, whether it be a penalty, interception, or a fumble. Well, things took a change against Southern Illinois, and let's actually look at that. We'll dictate all the drives. Drive number 1, they had 3 plays, punt, no error. Drive number 2, there's a legal motion penalty that forced 3rd and 14th. That is called an error. Number 3, the drive number 3, 3 plays, field goal, no error. Then they had a touchdown, and an interception to finish the half, and that was an error. Now you go on to the second half. Drive number 7, 4 plays and punt, no error. Number 8, no error, because that was a touchdown, obviously. Drive number 9, that illegal motion penalty. Those are the penalties, Dom, that I think were killing this team and this offense in the red zone earlier in the year, in the first 5 games or so. They were essentially eliminated. There's 3 errors this whole game. Number 10 drive was a touchdown. Number 11 drive was a touchdown. And then number 12 doesn't really count end of game possession.
What do you make of that?
What I make is a little better discipline. You know, the offensive line cannot make those plays. That's something you got to remember. In 2013, they didn't have a lot of those penalties. They were a very disciplined team. They were very crisp in how they performed their offensive sets and their play calls. That was missing a little bit. I saw signs against Southern Illinois that this team is coming back a little bit.
Well, you mentioned also at the postgame, for only 5 penalties for the entire game, a majority of them were in the first half, as we just saw, that this line is starting to click together. Joe Haig was named Missouri Valley Offensive Lineman of the Week. Here we are, now 6 games into it, halfway through the regular season schedule. The line is starting to gel. Chris Kleiman said that today in his press conference. He loves where the line is at, that now they are starting to hit that corner. I think Big E hit the nail on the head that how many guys they lost. You have to take account for that they lost 4 starters off this offensive line.
Well, there's 2 schools of thought. Does a line have a 7-player rotation? Is that good for a team? Some people prefer to have a 5 players and play the whole game, get acclimated, and you get better as the game wears on. NDSU is sticking to 7 players. And I thought they looked good. The head coach said today the offensive line surge was good all game.
Carson Wentz was good Saturday, I thought. His passes were crisp when they needed to be. The touchdown to Lucas Albers, you mentioned it in the postgame, looked like a touch of the Fargo Dome ceiling, and we saw in our postgame. He was in bounds. But I thought he played well, and he ran the football, something we saw out of his predecessor, Brock Jensen, quite a bit. He ran effectively last Saturday against Southern.
Well, he had a couple of those draws, the quarterback draws where the running backs went wide. He took advantage of some openings up the middle. That's a play that we saw a lot out of Brock Jensen. And Carson Wentz, they said they were going to run him during the year, and I think that particular play, that particular alignment is really starting to heat up as the season comes along.
All right, now on to the Sycamores. You've been the leader of the ISU bandwagon for the last couple of weeks, and then boldly you went and picked Illinois State, and then correctively so, as the Redbirds beat Indiana State. You and I both had them 10th in the league, and I think we weren't alone in that. They won 1 football game. We were there in Terre Haute last year. They were awful.
They were disarray.
Why are they so good now that they've won 4 games already?
Well, a couple things. Number 1, they've pretty much picked up the team aspect in the offseason. I think they're all buying into the head coach. They didn't have that last year. That was a head coach who didn't have control of his team. He had a player quit, Shakir Bell, a star running back.
Not just a player, he was the best player on the team.
And the quarterback was hurt. And you have all those factors, and it was not a good year. But time heals, I think. Time heals in this respect. They got some help. Their defense is really good. Their defense is a lot better than last year.
Mike Parrish is playing fantastic. The senior quarterback for Indiana State. And people will forget he was the QB when Indiana State beat NDSU. And now you accurately said this as well. I'm giving you guys a lot of props today, but NDSU's defense did not allow a touchdown in that game against Indiana State. Every Bison fan will remember there was 2 pick sixes and a field goal is how Indiana State won the football game, and they also won it because Shakir Bell was unstoppable in the fourth quarter. But you look at Parrish's numbers right now, 67% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's the biggest reason why they're at, and he did not play last week against Illinois State because of a concussion.
And 2 years ago, he wasn't really that good. What was
No.
he, 10 of 19?
10 of 18
for
for a buck
105,
nine.
109 yards? That's not going to beat you.
No.
What beat him that game, certainly at 2 pick sixes, but Shakir Bell
was
got
great.
some yards in the fourth quarter. And that's the one thing that a lot of teams cannot do on NDSU's defense is just score, be productive in the fourth quarter. In the last 26 games, and Big E tweeted this out today, in the last 26 games, they've allowed 16 points
That's ridiculous.
combined, total, in the fourth quarter.
That's an outrageous stat. Now, we talked about this, and we'll talk with the players tomorrow. Do you believe they're consciously aware of what this team is, and this is the last team to beat them, right? You have to assume so.
It's a
correct?
veteran team. How many players there have played 100 games or more, it feels like right now? A lot of them are in their 40s, some are in their 50s. That's a lot of games. They were around. They know.
Is this something that's going to rally them, you think, this week? Or is this just the next game? And it happens to be
Well, if you're
Indiana
counting
State?
on something 2 years ago to rally you, I don't think you're going to need that. I think what rallies you is just Missouri Valley title was what rallies you.
Let's look at now how everything went this past weekend. Western Illinois, who after last week, Bison fans were screaming, wow, we played so terrible at Western Illinois. They go and win at Youngstown State on Saturday night. That's a great win for the Leathernecks now, who now have 3 wins on the season, mind you. I don't know how many people thought that was going to happen here in 2014. Then South Dakota State beats Missouri State. Northern Iowa beats USD. And Illinois State wins on the road at Indiana State. Biggest shocker of the weekend you saw. It has to be Western, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because a lot of teams, too, after they play NDSU, that next week, they're usually not as productive. Because a lot of times, NDSU beats you up pretty good with that physical play. And we've seen it, and we've documented that the week following the Bison game is a struggle for most teams. Western goes out to Youngstown. Youngstown, now they're on 9-1-1 a little bit in their playoff hopes because you got to win at home, and you especially got to win against a Western.
Well, look at these games that are coming up this week. Southern Illinois, Youngstown State already. I mean, that's a huge game in the conference standings that Southern is 1-1 in Youngstown.
Absolutely needs this game. Southern can probably afford one more loss.
South Dakota State at Northern Iowa. That's a huge game already, considering where the Jacks and the Panthers stand in terms of who they still have down the road. Each team has to play the Bison.
I think the winner of that game is in solid position for a playoff spot. Absolutely.
South Dakota at Mo State, that's almost a must-win now for Missouri State. After now 0-2 in the league, they got to beat the Coyotes at home to keep any playoff hopes alive.
They need to win 4 or 5 in a row here.
Good stuff already as we're now at the halfway point of the Missouri Valley season, or at least the FCS season, just starting the Missouri Valley season as we get set for what should be a fun weekend. Indiana State, the trees are coming to town. I don't know if Larry Bird can appear on the pregame show. Can Big E work some magic for that on Saturday?
Well, we do have a basketball
We do
here,
have that. And we have the nickel. We have our new studios. We're looking sharp. Full week of coverage coming with Jeff in the paper and, of course, on WDAY. Kolpack and Izzo will be live in studio this week, 9 to 11 on 970 WDAY. And then, of course, the pregame show live from the tailgating lot. We're thinking 11:30 on WDAY's Extra and WDAY.com. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog.